The newswoman wore a blouse, and she held a microphone with rings on her fingers, and her face was artificially blushing. She spoke to the camera with brio from the news desk, seated beside the grinning anchors.
Everyone has a Milky Boy. Yep, that's true, all right,
she said. Lord knows I do, grinned the male anchor.
Samesies,
replied the female anchor.
So tell us, what is this piece about?
The newswoman stalled through a smile.
Milky Boys.
The feed broke and turned to a video recording. The newswoman spoke to 3 children who all wore variations of the same ugliness despite their various skin colors and haircuts.
Tell me, kiddos,
she smiled, looking into the camera's eye, but not the children's.
Who is your Milky Boy?
The children all shied from attention, as tots are like to do, but one spoke up, a preternatural leader.
Mickey Quispo.
The children all laughed, and their laugh was the same. Next, the woman asked the question to a broad with a British smile, a pair of colorblind fraternal twins, and a shitty old man. Each responded in turn. Milky Fritzy, Milky Brandon, Milky Crispo. The woman then approached a man working near a dumpster with a vestigial tail and greasy pits.
And sir, who is your Milky Boy?
She asked.
Like you don't know!
The man howled, swinging a fist.
Get that camera away from me! Get that camera! You better run!
The woman walked in from the side of a white background as though an apparition. She squat down on her hams, but in profile so she didn't flash nothing. The FCC punished ladies like her for showing babes pussy.
Everybody has a Milky Boy, be it a Brandon, a Fritzy, a Crispo, or God forbid, a Gribby Bibby. For a lot of people, their Milky Boy is more than just their biological father. It's a source of great pride.
At home, a viewer watched and shook his fist at the screen. He was goddamn proud to have Milky Brandon as his Milky Boy. Brandon babies were stronger, healthier, and better looking than Crispo babies. Most Fritzies, and don't even fucking joke about Gribby Bibbies. Goddamn Gribby Bibbies, he swore to himself, always making more Gribby Bibbies.
But some people are ashamed of their Milky Boy,
the newswoman said with a face like she lost her mother. The scene changed. She spoke in private to a homely man.
I didn't want to be a Crispo,
said the man with unfortunate Paul Giamatti features.
I didn't choose Milky Crispo. It's all anyone sees.
He looked ready to cry his ugly little eyes out.
Does it hurt your chances with women?
Absolutely. Except for Crispo girls, but nuh-uh, gross. I hate that Crispo trash.
So,
the newswoman continued in an empty television studio, transported again. The illusion of the news was omnipresence. A watchful eye like a stern parent ready to reveal and humiliate and congratulate, but above all, frighten, always frighten.
It should surprise most people, especially Gribby Bibbies,
she laughed,
that scientists have discovered a way to make Milky Boys, all 4 of them, obsolete.
In Castle Milky, where the Milky Boys lived their pampered lives of modern messiahs, Milky Brandon called to Crispo, Fritzy, and the intolerable Gribby Bibby.
Milkies! Get your buns over here! They're talking about us Milky Boys!
The Milky Boys left their duties behind, injecting hormones, bathing, milking, of course, and jumped onto the massive sectional couch. Gribby Bibby sat on the floor, eyes close to the popping static of the screen.
You're blocking the view!
Shouted Milky Fritzy, who threw an ashtray at Milky Gribby Bibby. The glass cracked into the back of his skull, and his vestigial tail cowered into his taint, not quite long enough to reach his voluminous balls. The woman on screen was now in a special laboratory, surrounded by scientists in puffy white suits, though she wore but a hairnet. She dipped a gloveless hand into a steaming vat of white, frothy goo.
Now, what's the advantage of eye sperm over the samples of our marvelous Milky Boys?
That's easy, smiled a man with a British smile, a Milky Fritzy for sure.
You see, well, the Milky Boys saved the species thanks to their terrific sperm quantity and viability. The problem has always been diversity. A strong genome needs variety, or else inbreeding threatens survival.
Wow!
Laughed the woman, clearly one of Brandon's.
That's very interesting. But can you say it for our Gribby Bibby viewers at home?
The man sighed as he was full of prejudice.
Milky Boy's good, but 4 is so small. It better if everyone has their own Milky Boy.
Their own Milky Boy?
Milky Brandon snarled.
Ha! I'd like to see him find better sperm on this right here.
He tugged at his scrotum, calloused from 2 decades of milking.
Guys, I'm scared.
Milky Crispo said.
Could we be replaced?
Of course not.
Milky Brandon said, draping a paternal arm around Milky Crispo's ugly, zit-flecked shoulder.
No one could replace you.
But what about me?
Asked Milky Gribby Bibby through his hair lip.
Shut up, shit stink.
Milky Brandon said, and then spat on the outcast.
You're ruining the species with your shit milk.
Milky Gribby Bibby tried to keep his calm, but broke into pathetic sobs as he ran from Castle Milky's television room. The other Milky Boys were so mean. Hadn't he done his duty? Sometimes he made 4 gallons of milk a day, almost double what Milky Fritzy could make, 10 times as much as Milky Brandon. In the other room, Milky Fritzy yelled at the TV, and something slammed into the wall.
Lies!
He heard Milky Brandon shout. He tugged on his tail when he was worried, and worried one day he'd rip it right off. What was a Gribby Bibby without a tail? It was times like this when he needed a pick-me-up. The Milky Gribby Bibby looked through his photo albums. Against the wall of his princely apartment, he had dozens of bookcases, each filled with dozens of photo albums, each album containing 1,000 or more of his children. He flipped through one hair lip after another, rubbing a thumb over his baby's near-identical faces. If he wasn't a Milky Boy, what was he? A knock sounded on the door.
Milky Gribby Bibby?
Asked the milking nurse.
Are you ready for me?
Of course!
He said, reclining on his bed and unbuckling his belt.
I was waiting.
She pulled the long hose into the room.
What do you think? Quart container or gallon?
Gallon.
Such a milky boy.
She exclaimed, attaching the hose to Gribby Bibby's hangdog genital. In the other room, the TV smashed to the ground.
For now,
he sighed.
For now.
This